Hey guys, Sam here.
And Angela, and welcome to our channel.
So about 2 months ago, we completed our off-grid home project and literally flipped the switch, taking our house off-grid. In today's video, what we want to do is bring you guys along for a, 2-month update, tell you how well the batteries have performed, have we lost power at all, have we had issues with the inverter, our solar panels, did they survive the large windstorms that we had, and stuff like that.
So come along with us as we share our story.
So I'm in our literal utility building right now, and I want to take a moment to talk about how the system has worked. So it has been in place for over a month. We are actually starting our 3rd month of off-grid, and so I feel like we have enough data and experience right now to talk about how well or how bad this whole setup has worked. From a hands-on, how much attention do you have to give it? This system is absolutely zero. The monitoring with the app is fantastic, as is the web-based website you can pull up and bookmark to view all the information from the inverter is also great. What that means is the amount of time that I actually physically come into this building to do anything with these objects has been none. Absolutely zero. That is fantastic. It is sold and advertised as a, turnkey solution, set it and forget it type system, and in our experience, it absolutely is. Now bear with me here, because what you're hearing in the building is a window AC that's running just so this doesn't get too hot. For the unit, yes, but for other things we have in our storage building. The reason I say that is because I now want to talk about how loud or quiet this machine is. If you have this unit, say, in a laundry room, a utility room, a spare bedroom, or anywhere else in your home, how much sound does it make? Unless the solar is charging more than 6,000 watts, or it is putting out more than 6,000 watts to your home continuous, this is absolutely silent. That is really cool. That is also really rare with inverters. Some will have fans that run all the time. Some will have fans that ramp up and down, and it's just kind of a mixed bag when you get to looking into things. That information is also not always readily accessible or easily to discern, and it's one that is very important. The LUX Power inverter, which is the company that makes this one, is a great quality inverter. It is silent until your 6,000 mark. Even at that point, the fans are not ridiculously loud. They are probably no louder than that window AC you hear right now in the building. Likewise, the ETHOS battery stack is perfectly silent. I don't think there are any fans in this because, there's no heat generation. So the batteries, they're absolutely silent. They're great. They have also just been sitting here doing their job perfectly. No complaints, no issues, and largely no thoughts about it, which is exactly what you want and what you would pay for in a system like this. I've moved you guys as far to the front door in this utility building as I can because I want to show you I have done some cleanup in here that, you're probably not going to notice it, but I have cleaned up in here because I want to talk about future plans, options for expansion, and stuff along those lines. So, as you can probably get from what I'm saying, we are planning on expanding our battery pack because, as we've told earlier, with our power outages that we've had, our battery pack is just not large enough to run everything in our home like we want to, especially all the way through the night with the higher demands of, in this case, the summertime. The mini split air conditioning is using a lot more power than usual. It's running non-stop, and so is our swimming pool filter pump system. That runs 24/7. So obviously adding those two combined together was just enough to sometimes put us over the edge. So we want to mitigate that, but also plan ahead to winter time. The beauty of the ETHOS system is that it is expandable, and our battery system is still new enough where I don't feel like these battery cells have degraded or been abused or used too much, that when we add in new batteries, we're going to have issues combining the two. That's something that's pretty important to take note of and keep in mind. So for us, spoiler alert, we have more batteries we're going to be adding, and that will be in a separate video. Other areas that you could expand on, while we personally don't ever foresee needing this, you can hook up more than one inverter to a system. So if you have a home or a business that has large electrical demands, maybe you're saying, you know what, that 12,000 output is nice, but I need something larger. You can connect a couple of these up in some configurations to get you there. So from a scalability viewpoint, the inverter is scalable. The batteries are also scalable. So this is a system that honestly could meet your need. Anywhere from small cabin usage. Oh, okay, this is probably overkill for a small cabin, but there are smaller inverters from Lux Power. But from something small to large business usage, this kind of setup will work for you. So, surprise, surprise, we are inside the house, and as usual with this kind of videos we've been creating, we have our power boxes here in view for you. So what we want to do is give you guys some real life story, tell you exactly how has the system run, right? And what better way and what better audience to have, or a co-star, to share, I mean, how is the power and everything outside translated to here inside the house?
Well, for the most part, I've not noticed any difference. There have been a couple of nights where, and when I say couple, we mean like literally 2 nights, it got about 5 o'clock in the morning and all the power went off because we ran our batteries down.
Yep.
But a lot of that has to do with it has been a lot hotter here, so our mini split has been running a lot more nonstop. And then we also have our pool filter on there, which is 24/7 as well. So it has more of a draw coming from it now anyway.
So what we do to mitigate that, or I guess to not have that issue anymore, is before we go to bed at night, we go right here to our transfer switch, grab the first 2 breakers, and flip it down. What that does is it moves only our mini split system on grid. And that is the beauty of this transfer switch. It's the reason we decided to do this. If you know much about the inverters, you will say, but Sam, it's a hybrid inverter, you have grid input. Yes. But where we live, we didn't want to possibly get into the red tape issues of having any of that connected to the grid. So this was our solution to put in to keep everything 100% off grid. No big brother coming around or have the ability to ask questions. That was important to us. And so it gives us the ability to flip things on grid, off grid as we need.
Now, one thing to comment on is the nights that the power did go off, all I had to do is come in here and flip all of those switches down, which turned it automatically on grid, and everything came back on.
Yeah.
So,
which is so much better than, I mean, possibly getting your shoes on, go out to wherever the system is, flip that over, or critical loads panel, do something with that. There's a big difference. So this kind of system, especially if you do it quick enough, our mini splits don't ever miss a beat. They don't turn off and on. It does not have a clue. It just went on grid and off grid, which is pretty cool. So we can't really talk about the challenges of the system without also talking about the benefits.
one of the big benefits is if the power goes down on the grid, we don't really notice it. The only way that we do notice it is our stove, which is on grid all the time. The clock will sometimes be messed up and it'll be several hours off, and then we're like, oh, I guess we lost power, but we didn't.
Right. Or a more entertaining way we find out is to get on Facebook and the local community groups that we're in and are part of, see posts of, why are we out of power? Hey, is anybody else out of power? What's going on? And we're like, huh, didn't know that. So that's cool. Which we actually lose power more frequently out here than we ever thought we would have. And it's for things that are not weather related or snow related. Apparently there's one string that feeds our community and people are magnets to the power poles, I guess. It seems to be the most often reason for power going out is somebody hit another pole. So it's nice to be independent of that.
It is.
At least in the house. It's not nice for that to happen out in the workshop. But there'll be a solution for that later on. Alright, this segment is going to be all about actual energy cost savings, energy usage savings, and the stuff that honestly might be the reason you're looking to do an off-grid system, or at least a partial system. So what I have here is a printout from our local utility company, and I don't know about your company, but ours is notoriously slow at giving us the data. So here we are at the beginning of July, and I just now got access to seeing the data from the month of May. So I only have 1 month's worth of data to look at because this whole system went live late April, and well, May was the first month. As time goes on, I'll have more data to compare, and maybe it will change, but I don't think it will, because our usage has really not changed much and our production has not changed much. We have not added or taken anything away to the grid or our off-grid system, and so I don't think it'll fluctuate much. But that being said, let's look at some pictures, some graphs, data, and geek out for just a moment. So as far as bar graphs go, it's not super exciting. Basically, you're just seeing a gradual downslope in usage, which is nice, but really the only month you need to really look at is the month of May. Going from January, February, March, that was the end of winter, so that was us using our heat less in the home, so our usage was naturally titrating down as we got into more of the milder seasons. So once we got to May, of course we're not using our heat. It wasn't super hot at that point, so we also were not using our air conditioning. As far as differences, so this chart here is a comparison of, while it says June up top, really look at the billing days, because that is the month of May of 2023 and the month of May of 2024. We have exactly 31 days in each billing period, so it's as close to an apples comparison as we can get. And also remembering back to the year 23 and this year, we did not really add anything major as far as power draws or consumption. We still had our soap making shed, we still had this storage building, I still had my workshop area, and our consumption was pretty much the same across the board. If anything, it was more this year than in 23, so that would skew the data against us or make it appear like we didn't save as much as we did, but that's okay. I mean, it's kind of the data we can do with what we can do. The two biggest points we want to look at is how did our total monthly usage change, and then our total monthly charges. Looking at the two, basically we went down 60%. We used 60% less energy from the grid, and therefore our charges were 60% less for the month. Looking at this one particular month, we saved $48. Doesn't sound like a lot, does it? But May is generally mild for us. We're not using the heat, we're not using the AC much, and I don't think at that point our swimming pool was open for the season, so its filtration and pump system also was not going. So if you've done the math really quick, you'll have seen, wow, in the month of May, you saved yourself $48 in that month. It's going to take you a long time to pay off your system, Sam. I will try my best not to go down a rabbit hole with this one, but basically say, yes, I agree with you. You're correct. From a money standpoint only, it will take a long time to recuperate and pay the system off. But if you're only looking to do solar or off-grid power generation for a I want to save money reason, you're not going to find it. In my opinion, the reason to do a system like this is for emergency preparedness, for self-reliance or self-sufficiency reasons, and to hedge yourself against the unknown in the future. Honestly, that's probably the #1 reason, especially a complete off-grid system like we did. We're not selling energy back to the company. We are not trying to make money or recuperate our investment from that front. We have just instead decided to get a system that is independent, allows us to have renewable energy, sets us up for in the wintertime or storms or whenever the grid goes off, we are not affected, and we have basically buy once, cry once. We have purchased our grid and our energy up front, and the power company can do whatever they want to the rates. They can increase rates, they can increase fees, whatever they want to do, and we are largely unaffected. So I'll leave it at that, because like I said, it's an entire rabbit trail that we could go on forever back and forth, and it's just a decision that you yourself will need to make. But I do want to be honest with you, letting you know that solar is really not a money savings thing. Again, not if your current property is on grid. Now, if you're looking to build completely from scratch, it could be. It absolutely could be. I couldn't exactly make a video talking about how the system has worked without coming out here into the field to show and tell and talk about how well the solar panels and the arrays have worked. So not long after putting everything up and installing it, I want to say it was like early May, we had some very severe storms roll through and winds that were sustained in the 60 to 70 mile per hour range. I'm happy to report that what you see behind me is exactly what was built, and everything has stayed put. These panels rode through that 60-70 mile per hour storm perfectly well. No problems at all, no issues, no hardware loosening, and as we see here, no panels blowing away. That was fantastic. During the storm though, it was a little bit of touch and go. I was, honestly concerned. Never had this array been put through such wind, and honestly, a solar array such as these are just giant sails anyway. I give the credit to their survivability to not going cheap and installing a proper rail system for the solar panels. If you look at rail systems, you'll have a little bit of sticker shock and think, my goodness, that's a lot of money just for some metal bars. But honestly, I don't regret it. I don't regret it at all, because they held all of our expensive panels in place and we didn't lose anything. Nothing was damaged, nothing was destroyed, and I never regretted it once. So it's one of those sayings, again, buy once, cry once. It has its place in life. Certain things, yes, be frugal, skimp, save money here and there. But other things, in my opinion, if you can swing it, don't skimp, because you'll regret it later. I want to do a video in the next couple of weeks talking about solar panel array maintenance, specifically how often do you need to clean these? Does cleaning make a difference? So what you're seeing now, I'm trying to let them get dirty before I film that. But I do want to talk about, as far as performance, power output and all that kind of stuff. The panels, they were brand new, have performed exactly as we expected, and we've had no problems at all with anything out here. So again, another area where, honestly, there's not much to talk about. It's all good stuff, which is great, but sometimes it makes for boring content, I suppose. One of the questions that we got a lot were people, and this is our fault, from the videos it didn't really show the distance, I guess, but they were concerned with shading. Isn't the front array going to shade the back array? Because we stacked them one in front of the other, as seen from our road, and there's no worry about that. Whenever I was laying everything out, I used a solar calculation app on my phone that told me the angle of the sun in the wintertime for the winter solstice, and I was able to judge and space them out, and there's no problems at all. So it's one of those things that doesn't translate well on video, but just know we did put the thought process into it before we invested in all of this work and money and time to make sure we weren't just going to shade ourselves, not only one array to the other, but also the house over there to the array back here. So we're all good. We're out here in our hayfield, honestly, at the edge of our hayfield, and there are no trees, no obstructions, and that's exactly what you want when it comes to solar power generation. Alright, I think that we have yacked at you, well, I have yacked at you enough. Hopefully we covered everything. Alright, we talked about, what? What'd you talk about? What'd you talk about?
Talked about the benefits and some of the limitations.
Alright, told them a little story time of us losing power.
And then us not losing power.
Right, I talked about the cost savings, gave you guys a tour of our literal utility building, and the solar array. So I guess that's about it. Again, it's probably not that interesting or dramatic of a video, because the only things we had to say is we lost power twice because, well, it's hot, we're running our air conditioner, and we added the pool. So, sorry, but not sorry.
Overall, I think that's pretty good.
Yeah. Now, speaking of overall, what have your thoughts and everything overall? Like of the system, because I'm very technical, geeky, nerdy, love to blah, 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 and you're not. So give a real life,
with the transfer switch above our panel in the house, it does make it a whole lot easier. And if I have any question of, I wonder if there's enough energy in the batteries, if I can do a load of dishes, I don't have to think about it. I can just go over there and swap it really quick and know that I'm not going to run down the batteries. So
from that standpoint, having the transfer switch is actually convenient for you, because you don't feel like you have to have a lot of knowledge of how to access the inverter's app and go in there and do anything.
Right, very much so.
Cool. So from that standpoint, there's even more benefit to that. So while this is it for this video, like I alluded to, or I guess to give foreshadowing of, there are some more things coming down the line for us with off-grid power generation, not only for the house, but also for our workshops, because our energy usage honestly is about half house and half the buildings that we work out of for our businesses. So if you're interested in that, definitely stay tuned. If you're here from the future, look down below. There's a playlist for all of our off-grid videos. You'll see it there. And hopefully you are excited to see and learn some more. And I don't know, come along as you see us do some pretty weird stuff on our channel, I guess.
Well guys, thanks for coming along. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below. Otherwise, we'll see you guys next time on Homestead.
See you guys.
Bye.